What's up guys, Tuki here, and in this episode we begin my career mode with Liverpool here on FIFA 17. Beyond excited to do this. Originally it was meant to start much sooner, but I had some recording issues with the original run, which is a shame because we had some early success, but now we will have to find that success again. Before we start, let's look at our objectives for this season and here in the future. Within 2 seasons, we have to reach the semi-final of the Champions League. That might be difficult. Youth development, we need 1 player this season to play in at least 5 matches, which could also be difficult. We also need to sign 2 players younger than 20 years old with potential greater than the average of the overall rating of the players currently in the same position. That should be easy with some of the potentials you see in this game. Shirt sales, I can't imagine that won't go through. Increase our club's worth by 10%. I don't know how difficult that will be. We'll see. And then, let's see, this season, finish in the top 4, reach the final of the FA Cup. I'm hoping for a top 4 finish, of course. I don't know about the FA Cup final. And then continental success, top 4 spot, and the Champions League. So, looking for that early success, I think we'll be able to pull it off. And yes, Uncle Ben's our manager. Has that joke been made? I can't imagine through all of YouTube someone hasn't made that joke. And that's like the worst part of this career mode already using Liverpool, is that you can't choose to just use Jurgen Klopp or whatever Premier League team you take. You just can't use that team's manager. They disappear. It sucks. Here's a look at our 3 scouts. Right now we're actually starting off in Scotland, in England, and we sent the Greek to Ireland. So I'm sure he'll have fun there. But let's see here. Moving forward, we have the board expectations done. We have that done. I believe the last thing we really need to look at is the team and the shortlist. And the shortlist, I'll tell you right now, I'm not looking for big moves at all. I'm going to keep this team together. Not an original idea, I'm sure. But I want to keep this team primarily together and just see what happens, at least until the January transfer window. Now, we're looking at Paul Verhaeghe or Roman Shishkin as a backup right back to Nathaniel Klein. These center backs, all decent potential. They're not the normal picks like a Shula or an Emerick Laporte, but decent players that could provide a little bit of depth, and they are going to be, one of them is going to be chosen if we end up selling Mamadou Sakho. He is starting off on the transfer list. And then we have 2 other players that I'm definitely looking at picking up, 2 players that were really heavily chased by Liverpool this past summer. Ben Chilwell, who did sign a new contract with Leicester, so perhaps not the most realistic signing. And then Christian Pulisic from Dortmund will look to bring those 2 in. Aside from that, no major players, no big-named, high-potential guys that you'll see on a lot of career modes. I mean, this is the team. This is what we're going to roll with. Unfortunately, Daniel Sturridge, we haven't played a game yet. He's out for 7 weeks, so that kind of sucks. But, I mean, this is pretty much going to be the team. Milner's going to be our left back. We're good to go. Everybody that you see in the sub bench right now is good to go. As far as the reserves, Sakho is on the transfer list, and then a couple of the younger players, the majority of the younger players. I should note as well, I made pretty much 1 major change. I did make some changes to some of the overalls. Shea Ojo is just so underrated. Starts off at a 64. I put him at a 70. He actually jumped up to a 71 without me even doing anything. I think that's fair. Like, that is a completely unfair rating. We made Danny Ward better, who's currently out on loan to Huddersfield, and we made him, I believe, a 71-72, which, again, is a bit more fair. And then we actually bumped up Adam Lallana, really gave him a stamina boost. He's now, I think, at a, what did I put him at, a 90? Yeah, we put him at a 90, which I think is fair, because for a lot of the early weeks of the Premier League season, he was covering the majority distance covered per game was top for, I believe, the league, not just Liverpool. But I think he deserved that little bit of a bump. We also bumped up Klein just a little bit, and that pretty much covers it. So moving forward, let's get our first training session in here, and then we'll sim this opening preseason tournament. Should be an interesting group with Barcelona in there. But as far as training goes, we're definitely going to keep it focused on certain people. This first week, we're going to focus on Grujic, or Grujic? I think it's Grujic. We're going to focus on him just to get him up to a 72 overall, since he is so close. But aside from that, whatever young prospects we have on the team, they will be the ones that we focus on this season. And like I said, everyone else is staying put. They're going to be getting plenty of playing time. We do not have European football, of course, but through the FA Cup and the League Cup, hopefully they can get their time in. And that's why I don't want to bring in anybody overly, ridiculous in terms of overall or potential, is that we already have a solid squad here, and I want to see what we can do. But let's see if we can get Grujic up to a 72. He will fall just short. He'll fall very, very, very short. He didn't do much. But we'll stick with training for him. But moving forward, let's sim this preseason tournament and see what happens. Our first matchup in the Asian Elite Cup, it's against Napoli. We are going with a very, very young side, and we will see, as I almost dropped my controller, which would have been a disaster. We will see if we can get the win here in the opening game, and we end up getting a draw, which isn't terrible. Anytime you can pick up any points with a weak side like that, I'll take it. Grujic, please go up to a 72. That would make me feel much better about dropping points there, and indeed, he is up to a 72. So we will be switching training. We're not going to just go, full bore on getting him as good as possible, although he will be one of the people we focus on this season. Game 2 against Barcelona. They crushed the Saudi side that they played. We are going with a much stronger lineup, but it'll be interesting to see who they go with. Will we face Messi, Neymar, and or Suarez? All three perhaps, and that is exactly who we're facing. Mane gets a goal 8 minutes in, but then Luis Suarez is able to tie it. Let's sim to the end of the game, and that would be the score. So we do draw Barcelona, which isn't bad considering the front three they had in. But Luis Suarez does the damage. We have our first transfer offer is Thiago Ilori. He's being chased by Watford. They're offering his value, which isn't bad, but if we were to sell Sacco, we could just keep Ilori as that kind of depth player rather than going out and getting one of the 4 center backs I showed you on the list. So we're going to look to get at least a little bit out of him. I know Ilori, I think his potential's around a 78, which isn't terrible. We will see. I'm actually going to bump that up to 6.5, and we'll see if they bite. It's a must-win game against Al Nassr after they lost to Napoli, so we got to hope Barcelona can beat them. We need to pick up a win here. We have our best squad in. We get the 3-0 win, and Barcelona beat Napoli, so we should be moving on to the next round of this tournament, and indeed we are. We will play Inter in the semifinal. Our next bit of training, it will be Kevin Stewart, who is the focus, looking to get him up to a 73 overall. I should mention as well, I was just reminded this as I was looking at our money reward for our success in the tournament. I did not take the transfer budget increase. It wasn't too much anyway. They dropped it to 30% this year, but we didn't take it. And Kevin Stewart didn't get up to a 73. Watford have declined the offer, but they have bumped it up to 5.5. And again, we're going to look to be just a little bit stingy because we don't have to get rid of them. We'll bump that up to 6 and see if they take it. Our semi-final match against Inter, we're again going with a pretty strong lineup. I do want to win this preseason tournament now that we've made it this far. Let's see if we can get the win over Inter, and we don't. We are eliminated after a 1-0 loss. Well, so much for that hope. On the bright side, Watford have matched our request. $6 million for Thiago Ilori. Looks like he'll be on his way out. Kevin Stewart once again gets the training. Can we get him up to a 73 overall? That is the hope. And indeed, he advances, so that's good. We have an offer for Joe Maguire. Doesn't really fit into the future plans. We won't nickel and dime here. We will just sell him on. And as expected, Thiago Ilori has gone to Watford for $6 million. We end up with 4.5. Not a bad bit of business. So far, we've been sellers. Now it's time to start buying. We are going to send an offer to Leicester for Ben Chilwell. We're going to look to try to lowball it a little bit, $1 million, and Connor Randall tacked on. I don't think they'll accept, but it's worth a shot. And offer number 2, it is Christian Pulisic from Dortmund. We're going to look to offer 1.7 million, and we're going to tack on Williams as well. Might be a little bit too low, but of course, we're not talking about too much money here, so it doesn't really matter. And our last offer is going to be for Paul Verhaeghe. I'm not against Trent Alexander-Arnold being the backup to Klein, but I'm going to make this move just to play it safe. 5.5 million and Pedro Chirivella tacked on. Hopefully they accept it, and we'll have a new backup right back. 2 notes here. Joe Maguire is off to Grimsby. Of course, not for too much. Not like that matters. Augsburg have declined, so we are going to have to bump up that money total. I'm going to go to 625, right in the... it's at least in the range that's being recommended, and we'll see if they accept this time out. And as expected, Dortmund and Leicester have both declined, trying to be a little bit too stingy, which is alright. We'll bump the Chilwell deal up to 1.5, and then the Pulisic deal, let's take a look. Other clubs are in on him, so I am just going to go right up to 2 mil. If other clubs are in on him, we want to get this deal done. I definitely want him on our team. Another week of training. This time we're going with Karius, who is very close to being an 83 overall. And Wijnaldum, despite not having the promising tag, he's close to being an 82. And we'll see if we can get him up there. There aren't any true prospects right now that are close to leveling up. And unfortunately, neither of these two did either. A bit of good news as Augsburg have accepted our deal for Paul Verhaeghe, 6.25 million, and Pedro Chirivella, who just isn't going to pan out. And let's see here, I'm going to see if I can get him on squad rotation, just so that he's not expecting too much. He might not want to go from crucial to squad rotation. And then we also have a transfer offer. We have 2 offers, Mamadou Sakho and Connor Masterson. It is Hull that's in on Sakho. Now again, we don't absolutely have to sell him, but in the interest of keeping it realistic, I'm at least going to field offers. And I'm probably starting too high for Hull. But we'll see if they accept that. Obviously I'm good with that. And then Connor Masterton, who is someone I actually want to hold on to and see if he can turn into anything. I was tempted to hold on to him this season, but I thought to myself, if I can get him out on a 2-year loan, I'll take it. And Barnsley have stepped up. They're willing to take him. So we'll send him to Barnsley for the next 2 years. Leicester and Dortmund have still declined, so I'm going to stop being cheap. And I'll break out the money here. They were recommending 1.9. We'll bump it up to 2 million for Chilwell with Randall tacked on. And then Christian Pulisic, let's see, what did they decline? They declined 2 million. I'm just going to bump it up to 3. I mean, this is nickel and diming, considering we do have a ton of money. And if Sakho goes, we'll have even more. So we'll see if we can get either one of those guys and finally get that deal done. Paul Verhaeghe has accepted our contract and squad rotation, which is very nice. So for 6.25 million and Pedro Chirivella, we are bringing in Paul Verhaeghe as the backup right back to Nathaniel Klein. Some good news and some bad news. Leicester have accepted the deal for Ben Chilwell, as you would expect. We really bumped up that deal and finally made a realistic offer. I'm not sure if he'll accept future first-team player. We will try. If not, we'll bump that up to sporadic. And the news from Hull, 30 million scared him off, as expected. More good news, Dortmund have accepted the deal for Christian Pulisic. I know for a fact he won't accept a first-team player, but we're going to try, and he's actually looking for less money than Chilwell, so maybe there's a chance. More training, it's the same 2. Can either of these guys progress? I'm hoping Wijnaldum here, though. And he is going to fall just short. God damn it. This might be a waste of time. Before we get into our first monthly scouting updates, Chilwell has accepted the contract. He's accepted future first-team player. So we're going to get this deal done. $2 million and Connor Randall for Ben Chilwell from Leicester. Of course, we're keeping Alberto Moreno right now as well. So right now we have some pretty good depth at left back. But let's take a look at the scouting. We start off in Scotland. And immediately, Duncan Clark with 68 to 92 potential. That is a very, very vague range, but we will certainly sign him on. Shane Watson will pass, John Nicholson will pass, and Jack McCall we will pass. So pretty disappointing as far as Scotland goes, but we do get at least one guy who could be decent. Moving on to Ireland, and we get Enda Kavanagh, 69 to 94. Another interesting little pickup there. We get Philip Connolly, 64 to 86 potential. We'll sign him on as well. And then Ronan Kennedy, 60 to 84. So not a bad bit of business in Ireland. And now we move on to England. Bradley Mitchell, first on 65 to 91 potential. That's a good start. Jonathan Alexander will pass on. Ed Hill, 15 years old, 74 to 94. That's a very nice range. Alfie Jackson, 69 to 93. Billy Bailey will pass on, but that's a hell of a name. And then we get Callum Ward, 75 to 94. So a couple of solid guys for the youth squad. And of course, we do need somebody to make the jump and to play on this team this year. So training now will probably switch to whoever has the highest of overalls for one of these players, and we'll look to get them into the squad really as soon as possible. And the good news just keeps on coming. Pulisic has accepted the offer as well, so both of them on future first-team player. $3 million and Jordan Williams to Dortmund, and we have really our two big prospect signings. Karius and Wijnaldum, both maybe could level up here. Like, I'm determined to get them to the next overall point, and then we'll focus on the youth players. And both of them continue to fail me. And actually, I'm an idiot, because I just saw Karius went up to an 83 anyway, so that was truly a waste of time. Now comes the bad news. As you can probably tell by the length of the episode, we're not going to get into our first game here. This episode was all about the setup. But in the next one, we will play our first few games. I believe the first three, actually, they tacked on an EFL Cup match against Northampton. We'll play 3, maybe all 4 games in the next episode. The good thing is Daniel Sturridge is healthy. But I wanted to quickly take a look at the transfer history. I want to see what some teams have done. Let's take a look at the big moves so far. Javi Martinez to Barcelona. Silva from Sporting to Real Madrid, Ozyakup to Southampton, Dries Mertens to Man City. And obviously, I'm mainly a hockey channel. If anybody plays FIFA, does this move happen for you every time? Because every time I've started a career mode, that move happens. That is almost as predictable as Alaba to Juventus so far. Strootman to Atletico Madrid, Zoet to Watford. So Watford looking to spend some money, and they're making some improvements. Oh my God. That name is always a tongue twister for me, but regardless, he goes to Leicester, and there are a couple of other pretty big moves. Bobadilla to Dortmund. Irving Lozano, someone I was definitely looking at, goes to Monaco. Callum Wilson to Stoke. Kalker back in the Premier League to West Brom. Kovalenko to Man City, so Man City picking up some very strong players, that's for sure. They're going to be a problem to deal with, and you get in to the lower deals. Certainly there'll be some steals. Zardis from the LA Galaxy to Valencia. You know, I might as well just skip through the rest of these. Why not? Just to see if there are any more surprises. And there are not. But overall, I am looking forward to this series. You know, I'm loving this game as far as career mode goes. Pro Clubs has been a different story so far. Obviously, the lineup isn't set. Sturridge isn't fully healthy, so I don't think we'll start him. But I'm liking this team right now. Really, there's nobody left to sell. We're actually right where we want to be. This is the team, with the exception of whether or not Sacco gets sold on, in which case I might not bring in somebody, or we still have those 4 center backs on the short list. But we have the depth. We're good to go, and I'm excited to see what we can do with this team here in this first season with Liverpool. But guys, that'll do it for this episode. Again, something different on my channel, but I love FIFA. I'm going to play career mode anyway, so why not just put it up here on YouTube, right? Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure to hit that like button to help support my channel. Subscribe if you haven't already to continue following this series as I stumble over my words in every goddamn video, especially with this outro. It's like my body's just rejecting this stereotypical outro. It's just, I cannot help myself. I'll see you guys in the next one. I really hope you did enjoy this episode, though.